Oh, dear. Mrs. Trump later responding, quote, "We live in a democracy and everyone is entitled to their opinion. But the fact is we have a serious crisis in our country, and I remain committed to educating children on the dangers and deadly consequences of drug abuse." Joining me now live is Doug Wead. He's a historian, author of the new book, Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me in.
As a presidential historian, is there any precedent for a first lady being, I mean, we already know about the president and the daily assault, but the first lady?
Yep, there's precedent, of course, in history. There's precedent for everything. And I actually, when I was interviewing the president for this book, he brought up Rachel Jackson, Andrew Jackson's wife, and he quizzed me about it. And she died of a stroke. After she went to Nashville shopping for her inaugural dress, she found all these old magazines and newspapers from the campaign where they accused her of adultery and being a bigamist. She was a very religious, devout woman. She went back home. She had a stroke. She died, never wore the dress, never went to Washington.
History is fascinating. But what I was wondering...
But you're right. This is a bit different.
...is that this takes it to a whole nother level, because I want to play this clip from CNN where somehow a CNN contributor seemed to blame the president and the first lady for what happened. Why?
What do you expect in this politically incivil environment that we're in, that it comes straight from the top? It's difficult to take Melania Trump seriously on a Be Best campaign when her husband is the bully in chief. The Be Best program, right? It has multiple pillars, is my understanding now. Opioids were added to that, obviously because the online cyberbullying part of it was so asinine coming from her, given who her husband is.
I mean, okay, again, you want to disagree with the president, disagree all you want. This is the first lady, and she's trying to help kids in the opioid crisis.
Yes, and the more they boo her, in my humble opinion, the better she looks, because it gives a chance to show the nation her poise, her elegance, her graciousness, her dignity in the spite of this, and most of all, her maturity. Her critics are so immature, like the fashion moguls here in New York City that won't put her on the cover of a fashion magazine. I've got a chapter in my book called Melania's Revenge. I'm getting more emails from people who love the stories of the president and first lady and their banter and their love of each other and how they handle the critics. So, and Ivanka said, "I refuse to be bitter." She said, "I can't function unless I'm happy. I choose to be happy." I think the more they boo Melania Trump, the better she looks.
You mentioned Ivanka Trump, the president, one of his daughters, okay? Now, her husband, Jared Kushner, he's faced all kinds of criticism. You're in the public life, you face scrutiny, certainly. But look at this New York Times op-ed. We can, just today, we can pretty much chart the weather of the administration by the relative visibility of Donald Jr., so loud in her suit, and Jared, so smooth-cheeked and mute. Donald Jr. thrives when it's nastiest, stomping gleefully through the muck. Jared comes out only if his suit won't get dirty or his hair wet. It goes on, but you get the idea. So both one of the president's sons and the son-in-law, you see there, naked opportunism. What is this, just Trump derangement syndrome on steroids, or is there something else going on?
Yes, it's on steroids. And you know, he's not mute anymore. I've got hundreds of pages of Jared in my book. He's one of the smartest persons I ever met in my life. The Mexican foreign minister says he speaks with such clarity. He's so strategic. One of the more interesting and funny things he told me is about Russian collusion. He said, "You know, I told my father-in-law, of all the scandals they could have created, there's none better than Russian collusion, because it's so ridiculous and you're so provably innocent. If they attacked you for something complicated, like building casinos in Atlantic City or building house buildings here in New York City, it could be complicated with zones and the public couldn't figure it out. But Russian collusion, it's perfect for you because it's so provable that you're innocent." He also said Russian collusion helped him turn around the economy because the media was so focused on Russian collusion, they were able to deregulate and make America strong.
Adam Schiff spent 2 years saying he had evidence of that collusion. I guess you didn't find it.
No, I guess he didn't.
The book is Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency. Doug Wead.
That's right.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Next, a live report on some news you really need to know. Two powerful storms, including